Hi, my name is Diego and I'm from CipherCore, the makers of LoginTC. In this video, we will show you how to add LoginTC strong authentication to your Cisco ASA SSL VPN, AnyConnect, and clientless logins by deploying a LoginTC Radius Connector virtual appliance and modifying your Cisco ASA with the Adaptive Security Device Manager or ASDM. I recommend to follow along this video with our online documentation. Please see the video description for a list of relevant links. Log in to the LoginTC admin panel online to get started with the installation process. Click Domains and then click Create for your first domain. Enter a relevant name and pick an icon for your domain. Your users will see the name and icon each time they authenticate. Click Create to complete this step. You now have a domain ready to be used for LoginTC authentication. Now install and configure the LoginTC Radius Connector appliance in your virtualization infrastructure. Virtual appliance images are available in OVA and VHT formats for both VMware ESXi and Hyper-V. You should first download the LoginTC Radius Connector virtual appliance image from the download section of our documentation website. See the video description for a list of relevant links. Log in to your VMware ESXi console. Right-click and click Deploy an OVF template. Under Select an OVF template, select Local File and then Choose Files. Navigate to the location of the LoginTC Radius Connector OVA file. Select it and click Open. Click Next. Enter a name for the appliance and click Next. Select a relevant compute resource and click Next. Review the details and click Next. Select a relevant storage and click Next. Select a relevant network and click Next. Now you've completed the Deploy an OVF template wizard. Click Finish. To view the newly deployed appliance, select the instance and open up the console. The LoginTC Radius Connector virtual appliance is ready for configuration. Now configure your newly deployed LoginTC Radius Connector virtual appliance. Log in using the LoginTC user with default password LoginTC Radius. One word, all lowercase. Once logged in, type Setup and hit Enter. Hit Enter and pick a new password for the LoginTC user. This password will be used when logging into the virtual appliance web-based interface. Next, set up the network configuration. It is important to pick a static IP address so that DHCP does not affect functionality. Next, configure the DNS. You can select an external or internal DNS server. Now that the network is configured, the web server will automatically turn on. Open a new tab in your browser and navigate to the URL indicated next to Administration Panel URL. Remember to include HTTPS and port 8443 when composing the URL. Enter the same password you configured to log in. Find the LoginTC Organization API key by navigating to the LoginTC admin panel. Click Settings. Scroll down to the API section and click Click to View. Copy the Organization API key and paste it into the form. Click Next. Confirm your LoginTC organization and click Continue to LoginTC Radius Connector. If you have an existing LoginTC Radius Connector deployed, you can import the configurations. In this case, we will configure a new LoginTC Radius connector. Click No to continue to the administration panel. Now your LoginTC Radius connector virtual appliance is ready to be configured to accept authentication requests. Now you are going to add a new endpoint to accept authentication requests. If you have not created an application, navigate to the LoginTC admin panel and click Application. Type Cisco and then click Cisco ASA SSL VPN. Go back to the LoginTC Radius connector and click Create your first endpoint. The LoginTC Radius connector will retrieve your applications from your LoginTC organization. Pick the Cisco ASA application by clicking it. To get the application API key, go to the LoginTC admin panel and the newly created application. Copy the application key and paste it. Scroll down, click Test, and Next. Now configure first factor authentication. If you use a Radius server for first factor authentication, you can select Radius. For this video, first factor authentication will be configured using an Active Directory instance. Enter the Active Directory host and port, and then in the BindDN field, enter the distinguished name of a user that has read access to the directory. Enter the password as well. This account will be used by the LoginTC Radius connector to connect to Active Directory and validate the user's password. In the query details, enter the base DN where all of your users reside. Fill out the username and filter attribute as needed. Scroll down, click Test, and then Create. Now select your newly created Active Directory user directory. For group attribute, select None. Click Next. Now pick a challenge strategy. This feature allows you to configure which users should be challenged with second factor. You can pick a static list of usernames or base challenging on Active Directory group membership. This is useful for testing in a production environment or to control the rollout of two-factor authentication to your user base. In this video, we will pick Challenge All Users. Finally, configure the Radius client. Enter the name of the client as it will appear in your endpoints list. Enter the IP address where the authentication request will originate from. If you have multiple Radius clients with their own IP addresses, you can add them here as well. Enter a secret that will be shared between your LoginTC Radius connector and the Radius client. Pick Challenge Interactive for a streamlined user experience. Scroll down, click Test, and Create. Now your endpoint is added and ready to be used. Now create a user and test your endpoint. Go to the LoginTC admin panel and from the Users tab, click Create your first user. The username must match the username in your Active Directory or SAM account name. Then enter their full name, their email address. For domain membership, make sure the domain you've just created is selected. Click Create. Now issue a token so that the user can authenticate with LoginTC. An email with instructions on how to load a token is usually sent to users. For this video, the token will be issued without an email. Load the token on your test device. Launch the LoginTC app and click Add Token, and enter the activation code you see in the administration panel. Click Next and click Add. Now the user has a token for your LoginTC domain and will be able to authenticate against any service you protect with LoginTC. Refresh the page to confirm the token is loaded. Now click Test Token to open the Test Token modal. Click Send Notification. A simulated request will be sent to your device. Approve the request to confirm authentication is working. You can also perform a test from the LoginTC Radius Connector virtual appliance. This test verifies that both first factor and second factor authentication configurations are accurate. This is a great way to confirm that the endpoint configuration is correct before modifying your Radius client. Click your newly created endpoint. Click Test Endpoint to open the Test Endpoint modal. Enter the username and password and click Test Endpoint. The Test Endpoint modal will behave the way the authentication mode is set in the endpoint. Enter 1 and click Continue to receive an authentication request. Approve the request. This test confirms that both first and second factor authentication are configured properly. Now configure your Cisco ASA SSL VPN using the Adaptive Security Device Manager or ASDM. On the LoginTC Radius connector, under the Settings tab, you can see the configured IP address and Radius authentication and accounting ports. Launch the ASDM to begin Cisco ASA SSL VPN configuration. Click Configuration, then click Remote Access VPN. Under AAA/local users, select AAA server group. Click Add in the top right. Enter the name of the AAA server group for LoginTC. Make sure to set the max failed attempts to 1 and click OK. Now add a Radius server to this group. Select the newly created group and click Add in the lower right hand side. Enter the IP address of the LoginTC Radius connector virtual appliance. Make sure the timeout is set to 70 seconds. Enter 1812 for the authentication port and 1813 for the accounting port. Enter the same shared secret used when configuring the LoginTC Radius connector. Make sure the chat v2 is disabled. Click OK. Click Apply to apply the changes. Now configure your connection profile to use this AAA server group. Under Client List, VPN Access, click Connection Profiles. Then select your desired connection profile, click Edit. Change the AAA server group to LoginTC, click OK and apply. If you do not use AnyConnect client list authentication, then you can skip this step. Under Network Client Access, click AnyConnect Connection Profiles. Select your desired connection profile or use a new connection profile for testing purposes. Click Edit and select the AAA server group LoginTC. Click OK and apply your changes. Now go to your AnyConnect client profile. If you do not already have a client profile, then create one. Pick a name and ensure that the group policy matches the group policy used by your desired connection profile. Now edit the profile. Make sure that Auto Reconnect is not selected. Go to Preferences Part 2, scroll down, and set the default authentication timeout to 80 seconds. Also configure the serverless entry if this is your first time configuring the client profile. Click OK and apply all the changes. Now select Group Policies and confirm that the AnyConnect client profile is the same one as the one used to configure LoginTC. Click OK and apply all the changes. Your Cisco ASA SSL VPN is now configured to use LoginTC. Now test Cisco ASA AnyConnect client authentication. Open the Cisco AnyConnect client and enter your username and password. Type 1 in the challenge window to receive a notification on your device. Tap Approve to complete the authentication request. Users can now access your Cisco ASA SSL VPN securely using LoginTC multi-factor authentication.